I lived with Larry Evans for 3 years. We occasionally slept together, but we never kissed. It was the purest form of friends with benefits. Until I accidentally saw him and his secretary acting intimately, her freely entering and leaving his private space. I understood, and discreetly packed up my things. That night, as I left, I sent him a farewell text. I'm going back home to get married. Let's not keep in touch anymore. Later, I was seeing off a blind date. I turned around and met Larry's gaze. He could no longer maintain his facade of gentle rationality, pressing me against the wall in a fit of rage. What does he have that I don't? Money? Power? Or is he just better at pleasing you? Near the end of the workday, a sudden heavy rain poured down. My colleague, Maya Chin, had forgotten her umbrella and sidled up to me, hoping to share mine. I didn't refuse. As I looked down, opening the umbrella, I heard Maya sigh with envy. It really is best to be a secretary, isn't it? First dibs. Anna Miller has only been here 3 weeks, and she's already sharing an umbrella with Mr. Evans. After 3 months, will we all be calling her Mrs. Evans? I looked up. My gaze pierced through the rain, settling on the black umbrella. 2 figures walked side by side. Larry strode ahead, and Anna jogged to keep up behind him. She ran too quickly, lost her balance, gasped, and stumbled towards the ground. Larry reached out just in time, steadying her by the waist. The scene unfolded perfectly, like a classic romance drama on TV. I averted my eyes, shook the umbrella handle, and thousands of raindrops plummeted to the ground, creating ripples. Aren't you going? If the rain gets any heavier, we won't be able to leave. I prompted. Maya, seeing I wasn't responding, poked my arm helplessly. That's Mr. Evans, young, accomplished, and impeccably principled. Everyone at the company puts him on a pedestal. Aren't you even a little tempted? She finished, not waiting for my answer, then made a dramatic gesture, clutching her heart as if in pain. Anyway, my heart is aching to see someone else claim Mr. Evans's passenger seat. Maya's theatrics made me chuckle. I took out my car keys and pressed the button. The lights of my Audi on the roadside flashed on. I playfully lifted her chin and smiled. You might not get to sit in Mr. Evans's passenger seat, but how about sitting in mine? Dropping Maya off took a bit longer than expected. When I pushed open the door, Larry had just finished placing the last dish on the dining table. He was wearing comfortable loungewear, and the apron he had on seemed to be a matching couple set the mall had given us during our last grocery run. Under the warm yellow light from above, the usual aloofness that came from his immersion in the business world melted away, leaving only a gentle, soft demeanor. Larry stepped forward, took my bag, and hung it on the coat rack. Then he bent down, taking out my slippers and placing them by my feet. His fingertips naturally brushed against the ankle strap of my high heel, a warm sensation against my cold skin. I stiffly took half a step back, declining his help. I can do it myself. Larry paused, but said nothing. I made your favorite pork ribs with pumpkin. Go wash your hands and eat while it's hot. I silently changed my shoes and walked to the sink. As the water ran through my fingers, my thoughts drifted. 3 years of living together, and Larry and I had done quite a few things that crossed the line. Helping me take off my shoes was a trivial matter. But just now, as Larry leaned in, an unusual sense of resistance welled up inside me. I knew why, but I didn't want to admit it. It was because of Anna, and because of myself. Over these 3 years, living together day after day like a frog slowly boiling in warm water, I'd forgotten that Larry and I's beginning was nothing more than a drunken, passionate haze. I'd forgotten that his kindness towards me was simply good manners. I had uncontrollably fallen in mistaking physical needs for love. Anna's appearance had jolted me awake. A harsh realization. Thankfully, it wasn't too late to pull away now. I ate that meal without much enthusiasm, taking only a few bites before putting down my chopsticks and going upstairs to wash up. When I came out of the bathroom, Larry was waiting outside the door. His brow was furrowed, and his gaze, fixed on me, was filled with worry. For a moment, I didn't know how to act towards Larry, so I simply ignored him. As I brushed past him, Larry grabbed my wrist. His grip was tight, as if he meant to leave an indelible red mark on my skin. Today you? I sensed what Larry was about to ask, so I cut him off. Is it time? A flicker of surprise crossed Larry's eyes. I didn't give him a chance to react, stepping onto my toes and initiating a kiss. But gradually, Larry took over the lead. His palm pressed against the back of my head, deepening what had started as a tentative kiss. Larry couldn't even wait the few steps back to the bedroom. He pushed me back into the bathroom. The humid steam hadn't yet dissipated in the bathroom. Through my thin nightgown, I was pressed against the cold, damp tiles. Larry was my only source of warmth. I could only wrap my arms around his neck, forced to endure everything he brought. I bit my tongue, suppressing the tremor in my throat. It felt like a competition. Speaking first would be revealing my hand, losing everything. I didn't want to lose too badly. Sweat matted my hair to my forehead. Larry reached up and pushed it away. He lowered his head, tenderly kissing away the tears that spilled from my eyes. Don't hold back. Call my name, please. It was always like this. Larry was always like this, using soft, coaxing tones, weaving illusions of love that made me fall into them. Before an uncontrollable sob could escape, I bit hard into Larry's shoulder. Even tasting the metallic tang of blood, I didn't let go. Larry grunted in pain, then chuckled softly in my ear. I really can't do anything with you. In the end, I had no strength left. Larry carried me back to the bedroom. In a daze, I felt my left hand being gently stroked. I curled my fingertips and asked in a hoarse voice, "What's wrong?" Larry seemed not to have expected me to still be awake. He coughed lightly, as if covering something up, then intertwined our fingers. Nothing. Go to sleep. Everything that happened on that rainy night dried up with the bright, clear day. I had been on a business trip for over half a month, working nonstop, and had no mind to revisit those memories. So, when I carried my suitcase and entered the password, only to run directly into Anna, I couldn't help but feel a moment of bewilderment. Anna was wearing a lace slip dress. I recognized it immediately as the one I had tucked away in Larry's closet. Anna's gaze, initially joyful, turned into a subtle hostility when she saw it was me. She curved her lips into a smile and, in the tone of a hostess, greeted me. "Miss Reed, is there something you need?" I rubbed my temples, which ached from exhaustion. I didn't shriek questions at Anna about why she was there, nor did I press Larry about his whereabouts. I simply returned a calm smile. I'm just packing up some things, and then I'll be leaving. After all, I had lived there for 3 years. I went up and down several times before managing to pack all my belongings. I even took the rose bush I'd grown on the balcony, even though Larry had been the one watering it all these years. I was loaded down with bags. Anna glanced at me and prompted, "Miss Reed, you should check carefully to see if you've left anything behind." She tilted her chin, a hint of sharpness in her otherwise sweet, compliant face. "After all, there's a new person here and old things should be thrown out. If anything's left behind, it would be a shame for you to have to pick it out of the trash." The curve of my lips didn't change. Now that you mention it, I just remembered. I do have one last thing I haven't taken. My gaze swept over Anna, my eyebrows slightly raised. "The slip dress you're wearing is mine. Do you want to take it off for me?" "You." Anna covered her chest, her face flushing with indignation. I didn't want to descend into a verbal battle with her. I waved my hand and said blandly, "Never mind. I have a bit of a germ phobia. It's yours." I returned to my old rented apartment with my heavy luggage. Even after moving in with Larry, I had never given it up. Probably because I was too pessimistic, feeling that everything with Larry was nothing but a mirage. Eventually, I would wake from the dream. It was fortunate that I was so pessimistic, allowing me a place to stay now. I quickly washed up. Unable to fight off the exhaustion from working nonstop, I fell into a deep sleep. When I woke again, it was already evening. Endless darkness swallowed me. My heart suddenly skipped a beat, filled with an indescribable loneliness. This feeling was like being abandoned by the world. Fortunately, this mood didn't last too long, broken by the sudden ring of my phone. I picked up and my mother's voice reached my ear. What she said wasn't new. It was just the same old worries, asking if I was eating and sleeping well, if work was going smoothly, the same familiar questions she'd repeated for years. I listened, quietly responding occasionally. Finally, a slight catch in my mother's gentle voice. "Audrey, are you coming home for the holidays this year?" I wasn't sure why my mother was asking about holiday plans so early, but I answered truthfully, "Not sure yet." "Why?" There was a pause before she replied, "It's nothing. Mom just hasn't seen you in a long time and misses you a bit." Her words hit me like a hammer to the chest. A dull ache of sadness welled up. I grew up in a single-parent home. My concept of family was always vague. My childhood memories were only of my father, idle and drunk every day. He had a bad reputation involved in gambling, drinking, and womanizing. When he won money, my mother and I had it better. At least we weren't beaten. But when he lost, it was different. He'd get violent from the alcohol, grab my mother's hair, and drag her into the bedroom, where only a single bare bulb dimly glowed, like a butcher dragging prey to slaughter. The old house was in disrepair, and the door didn't close tightly. At just 5 years old, I was forced to watch my mother suffer through a narrow crack in the door. Inside, my mother's piercing screams echoed. Outside, I cried, my hands bruised and bloody from hitting the door. I couldn't break it down. I couldn't stop the torture from continuing. This went on for a long time, until the day my father's veined fist landed on me. My usually submissive mother suddenly fought back. She grabbed a kitchen knife and swung it wildly. "You animal. If you dare touch Audrey, none of us will live." Her black hair was disheveled, and blood seeped from the wound on her forehead. At first glance, she looked like a demon crawled out of hell. My father was startled and stormed out, cursing. My mother put down the knife, suddenly losing all strength, and pulled me into her arms, tears drip-soaking my hair, and her voice choked out, "Don't be afraid, Audrey. Mom will take you away." Later, my mother single-handedly supported our home. She fought tooth and nail to put me through school. All I could do was study hard, work hard, and succeed, so she could enjoy a peaceful life. But these years, I had only focused on making money, forgetting that what she truly needed was companionship. I looked at my savings. That string of zeros was enough for me to be set for the rest of my life. I no longer had a reason to stay in the city. After realizing this, I spent a week settling work handovers and processing my resignation. That night, as I left, I felt completely unburdened. I didn't even bring a suitcase. Before boarding the plane, I sent Larry one last text message. It was a period at the end of our 3 years. "I'm going back home to get married. Let's not keep in touch anymore." With the burden of work lifted, my days back home were excessively leisurely. To keep myself from getting too bored, I built a flower garden in the small yard. Tending to the flowers and plants every day kept me quite content. However, my quiet demeanor set off alarm bells for my mother. As they say, a mother knows her daughter best. The first day I returned, my mother noticed that my state of mind wasn't right. But she didn't ask anything. I had no idea how to explain, so I simply played along, pretending everything was fine. "Mr. Miller's son, Adrian, knows you're back. He said it's been a long time since you two saw each other." I was basking in the sun, dozing off in the yard. Hearing this, I half opened my eyes and mumbled a response. Seeing no signs of resistance on my face, my mother relaxed slightly and finished her thought. "I figured you two are young and would have a lot to talk about. So I accepted his invitation for you. It's just going out for a walk and dinner. If you stay cooped up at home all the time, you'll eventually get sick." My mother spoke meaningfully. Feeling a bit guilty, I readily agreed. "Okay, I'll see him then." Adrian Miller and I were childhood friends. The night my father was scared out of the house, my mother gathered all our savings and took me on a rickety old train. After several transfers, we arrived in the city where we now live. Adrian Miller lived right across the street from us. His mother was a very gentle woman. When my mother was too busy to pick me up from school, she would take me along and invite me to their house. The first time I stepped into Adrian's home, my face was filled with apprehension. I was very afraid of Adrian's father, even though he would always greet me with a gentle smile whenever I saw him. I still feared he would clench his fist and grab my hair in the next second. None of my worries came to pass. Adrian's father, seeing me, simply patted Adrian's back and instructed, "Your sister Audrey is here. Hurry and take her to your room to play. Whatever good things or fun things you have, you must share with your sister, understand?" Adrian, who was my age, took my hand and brightly replied, "Understood." This was the biggest difference between Adrian and me. He grew up in love, and he could generously share half of the love he possessed with me. "It's been so long. You really haven't changed at all, still so quiet." My neck suddenly felt a chill, and I flinched, frowning at the culprit. Adrian's apology came quickly. He held out a cup and, with a smiling gaze, sat down in front of me. "Iced sugar-free 4 Seasons spring macchiato with taro balls. Did I get that right? Your favorite." I took the drink, pushed the straw to the bottom, and sipped the milk tea before answering. You haven't changed either. Still so childish and talkative. Adrian leaned back in his chair, his dark hair falling in soft strands, with an air of nonchalance. I only act this way for you. If I hadn't grown up with you, I'd be a cool, aloof heartthrob. Adrian sighed. Too bad. You've been an ice queen since childhood. If I were also a mountain, it would be difficult to exchange 12 words with you in 12 years. I smiled faintly noncommittal. How have the past few years been? Adrian continued to make small talk. Pretty good. I'm already living a retired life. What about you? After graduating from college, I worked as a wilderness photographer for 2 years, dealing with nature. But I got injured a while ago, and my mom cried her eyes out. I couldn't bear to worry her anymore. With a shrug, Adrian said with a hint of helplessness. Now I've had to hang up my gloves and plan to open a studio. Sounds a bit regrettable. I crossed my arms, raising an eyebrow playfully. But for someone your age to experience the passion of a young entrepreneur, it's like being 18 again. Adrian feigned annoyance. Before I could react, he raised his hand, intending to tap my forehead. I instinctively dodged. Adrian's hand froze midair, and the atmosphere tightened for a moment. Adrian casually withdrew his hand, using humor to brush past the awkward moment. Forget it. This reborn 18-year-old handsome young man, have nothing to say to an old person like you. Adrian and I wandered, stopping at many of our favorite old spots. As dusk approached, Adrian drove me home. Just as I was about to say goodbye, he took my hand, which was hanging by my side. Adrian clasped my hand, squeezing my palm. Audrey, I asked you out today because I want to tell you, I like you. I lowered my gaze, looking at our intertwined hands. Then I shifted my eyes to Adrian's face. For college applications, you didn't choose a university in the city. Instead, you went to another city. Was it because you saw the confession I wrote on the last page of my workbook? That was a subtle rejection, wasn't it? Adrian frowned, a flicker of urgency in his eyes because at the time, I thought you just hadn't distinguished between love and dependency, which was why you felt something for me. He paused. Later, I realized how incredibly wrong I was. The one who couldn't distinguish was clearly me. Adrian looked down at me, waiting for my answer. You're right, I quietly responded, simultaneously pulling my hand free from Adrian's grasp. I truly didn't distinguish between love and dependency back then. We were inseparable, and you were the only one who cared for me, treated me well, and shared everything with me. I hadn't experienced much love, so I naturally thought that was it. The words, held at the tip of my tongue, rushed out with my trembling breath. But I realize now that love isn't unilaterally taking everything the other person has. Love makes people foolish. Even if you have nothing, even if you know the other person isn't lacking love, you still sweetly offer up that small, barren piece of your heart. That's what love is like. Not good, not too bad. I paused, then met Adrian's gaze seriously. So, you'll always be my brother in my heart. You were before, and that won't change. The evening breeze swept past, disheveling the strands of hair by my ear. After a long silence, Adrian suddenly chuckled. He tapped my head with 2 fingers held together. It didn't hurt, but it made me blink twice in confusion. Such a long discourse on love, coming from your mouth, he said. I misjudged you. You haven't just changed a little. You've changed so much. Tell me, who did you fall in love with? Why didn't you bring him back for your brother to meet? The atmosphere lightened. I didn't hide it from Adrian, shaking my head and answering honestly, there's no future for him and me. Adrian understood me. He knew I wasn't someone who easily spoke such disheartening words. Adrian didn't try to persuade me further. He simply brushed my wind-blown hair behind my ear and said softly, the wind's picking up. Go back inside quickly. I watched Adrian drive away. The moment I turned, I came face to face with Larry across the street. He'd been standing there for who knew how long, the faint spark between his fingers flickering. A sense of helplessness washed over me. 3 years of living together, and Larry and I had done the most intimate things countless times. Yet, an unbridgeable chasm always lay between us. Like now, I never even knew Larry smoked. A cold gust of wind, carrying fine droplets of rain, swept over. I hunched my shoulders, walking past Larry, as if he weren't there. Who was that? Larry's voice cut through the air abruptly. A blind date. I replied calmly, looking down as I typed in my door code. You came back, leaving me, just to marry him? Larry pressed, his tone colder than the late summer evening breeze. I said nothing. Larry took my silence as an affirmation. He suddenly grabbed my shoulder, pushing closer. What does he have that I don't? Money? Power? I was backed against the wall. Nowhere left to retreat. Or does he just please you more than I do? Larry leaned in, the choking smell of tobacco irritating my fragile nerves, making me even more aware. I met Larry's gaze, unyielding. Was I not clear enough in my text message? I repeated the message, my eyes calm. Let's not contact each other again, ever. Why not? My words were cut short. Larry's voice was almost out of control, demanding an answer. His hand, gripping my shoulder, tightened unconsciously, causing a faint ache. I spoke each word distinctly. Everything gets old eventually. 3 years is enough. I want to try something new. Is that so wrong? With the final downpour, the stifling heat of summer was washed away. Larry never reappeared, and my life returned to normal. I had just walked a few steps out of the supermarket with my bag when a dark shadow suddenly lunged at me, knocking me back a few steps. The bottles and jars in my bag shattered on the ground. I frowned, looking at the person who had collided with me. After just one glance, my body began to tremble uncontrollably. Audrey, Dad finally found you. The long unheard voice instantly dragged me back to hell. Damian Reed knelt on the ground, tears streaming down his face. It was all Dad's fault back then, that our family was forced apart for so many years, but Dad has changed now. More and more people were drawn to the spectacle gathering around. This young lady has a pretty hard heart, being so indifferent to her own father. Even if her dad made mistakes first, he's still her elder who raised her. What's unforgivable? My face, the center of this commotion, was pale, devoid of any color. As a child, I had countless dreams of encountering Damian Reed again. But no matter how those dreams unfolded, they always ended in a bloody mutual destruction. Damian was a chronic illness rooted in my body. As long as he was alive, I would never find peace. My gaze fell on the shattered glass shards at my feet, a sharp little piece. If I slit Damien's throat, he would die quickly, then everything would end. I pressed down on my trembling hand before I could make a move. The next moment, I was pulled into a warm embrace. Are scams really this blatant now? Larry's warm palm gently stroked my back, pulling me out of my dazed state. My girlfriend's father just passed away recently. I personally watched him being wheeled into the crematorium. For you to suddenly appear playing dead, isn't that a bad influence on society? With just a few words, Larry changed the narrative for the onlookers. Oh, so it's a con artist. I wondered why the young lady looked so expressionless. It turns out he hit a nerve. Lost her father so young. How tragic. Isn't this a human trafficker? Call the police. Hurry and call them before he runs off and harms someone else. Damien still wanted to argue, but when he heard the word police, his face suddenly changed. He scrambled to his feet and ran away. The crowd, with no more spectacle to watch, dispersed. Are you okay? Larry held my wrist, looking at me with concern. What are you doing here? I countered, my gaze tracing down from the baseball cap Larry had pulled low. When I noticed he wasn't wearing a suit, but a studded leather jacket, my pupils involuntarily contracted. And this outfit, what is? Larry avoided my probing gaze, his dark eyes flickering. A sudden whim, trying a new style. Oh. I didn't press the matter, turning to leave. Larry called out to me, asking, that person just now, do you need me to handle him for you? I shook my head, indicating no. My affairs, I'll handle myself. I didn't tell my mother about Damien Reed's appearance. I didn't want her to worry, so I just told her that things had been a bit unsettling lately, and that she should go out less. At the same time, I reported it to the police. But the response I received was that they couldn't intervene unless there was substantial harm. Moreover, he was still my father. My phone, lying on the table, vibrated. It was a text from Damien. Audrey, you don't think hiding from me will stop me from finding you and your mother, do you? If you push me too far, it won't just be text messages. Your mother is old, and she's taken so many beatings protecting you before. You wouldn't want her to be scared again, would you? I know you have money. Give me $500,000. I'll pay off my gambling debts, and I promise not to bother you two again. I am your father, after all. You wouldn't really watch me get my hands cut off, would you? Of course, I didn't believe Damien's lies. If he could extort me once, he could do it again. So, I needed to find a way to end this permanently. After much thought, I typed out an address. Meet me here tomorrow night. I'll bring the cash. As dusk deepened, the appointed time with Damien approached. I changed into inconspicuous clothes, grabbed a suitcase, and left. When I reached the alley entrance, Damien was already there. He paced anxiously back and forth. Seeing me, his eyes lit up. I tossed the suitcase onto the ground. It landed with a thud, and stacks of cash tumbled out. Damien eagerly bent down to pick them up. The streetlights in this alley were old and in disrepair, casting only a dim, hazy glow. Even so, it was enough to illuminate the greed in Damien's eyes. Dad knew you'd find a way. With this money, I can definitely turn things around. Damien counted the bills, a flush of intoxicating joy on his face. I watched him in silence, then let out a soft chuckle. As expected, my laughter caught Damien's attention. He looked at me warily. What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at your stupidity, I replied. Do you really think I'd let you manipulate me? 500,000? That's enough for blackmail charges, wouldn't you say? I spoke casually, but Damien's face instantly changed. He blustered, his voice trembling as he yelled at me. I'm your father. It's only right for you to give me money. Unmoving, I continued to provoke Damien. Oh really? You can tell that to the police later. Damien gritted his teeth, a surge of malice emanating from him. You little bitch, you actually dared to call the police? I should have just beaten you to death back then. A look of madness flickered in his eyes. I knew Damien had gone insane. He'd been hiding from debt, his mind in a constant state of high tension. The slightest disturbance would push him over the edge. Not to mention, I had given him hope, only to shatter it instantly. I watched Damien frantically grab the fruit knife I had placed in the suitcase, stepping closer to me. If you won't let me live, then I'll drag you down with me when I die. Damien snarled, lunging at me with a knife. In a flash of lightning, the expected pain never came. I was pushed from behind, falling heavily to the ground. The sound of a blade piercing flesh, mixed with a painful gasp, filled the air. I looked up in disbelief. Larry was kneeling on the ground, a steady stream of blood gushing from around the knife handle, staining his pristine shirt. The stark contrast of red and white burned my eyes. Seeing the blood, Damien instantly sobered up and instinctively bolted out of the alley. Ignoring everything else, I rushed to Larry's side to check his wound. His face was ashen, his bloodless lips tightly pressed together. Audrey. I gripped Larry's cold hand, fighting back tears. I'm here. With one hand, I tried to comfort Larry while with the other, I picked up my phone from the ground and called an ambulance. Larry rested his head on my shoulder, his voice very soft. That rainy day, you kissed me. You once said that for friends with benefits there were 3 rules. No kissing in bed, no knowing each other outside of bed. I thought when you kissed me voluntarily, we would be officially a couple. But you turned around and left me to marry someone else, and even said you were tired of me. That's not fair. I've liked you for longer than 3 years. Larry spoke in broken sentences, a hint of vulnerability coloring his usually gentle and calm voice. My heart felt like an overshaken carbonated drink. Surging emotions choked my throat. My breath hitched, and I squeezed out my love, sobbing, I like you. Warm tears splattered down my cheek onto Larry's neck. He paused, his voice tinged with a faint, unreal smile. You're not just saying nice things to humor me because you think I'm dying, are you? No, you're not going to die. I shook my head frantically. Larry raised a hand and wiped away my tears. Could you kiss me? This was Larry and I's first truly meaningful kiss. Our lips gently touched, mingled with salty tears. It felt both absurd and pitiful under the circumstances. Siren wails echoed, and Larry was loaded onto the ambulance. Adrian followed behind a group of police officers. He steadied me, my legs weak. I'm sorry. I was a step too late again. My attention was entirely on Larry in the distance, and I didn't quite hear him. I wanted to go to the hospital with Larry, but the police stopped me halfway to take my statement. By the time I arrived, Larry had already finished surgery and was resting in his hospital room. How are you feeling now? Facing my worried expression, Larry smiled. Don't worry, I'm fine now. I parted my lips, seeing Larry like this, and couldn't utter a single word. I could only blame myself for not being careful enough. Don't frown. This pain is nothing, he said. It's insignificant compared to the ache in my heart from seeing it land on you. My ears flushed, and the atmosphere suddenly grew intimate. The next second, the door was dramatically pushed open. How did you end up in the hospital again? I turned to see a man with red hair, dressed very punk. Rock. Our eyes met, and he instantly flashed a grin. This must be the sister-in-law, right? I'm Larry Evans's friend, Ethan Vance. I smiled back, keenly catching a keyword in his sentence. You said again? Ethan, making himself at home, pulled up a chair and sat down. Didn't Larry tell you, sister-in-law? He naturally pulled an apple from the fruit basket he'd brought, wiped it, and took a bite. He took over 20 lashes of the family punishment just to marry you. He paused, chewing. I'd say old man Evans is truly heartless. Usually, he calls Larry his precious grandson, but when it came to beating him, he didn't hold back at all. It was all raw flesh and blood. They didn't even give him medicine, just threw him into the ancestral hall to kneel, not even a drop of water. Ethan cast a pained expression at Larry, completely missing the frosty glare Larry was sending his way. Speaking of which, I really owe you an apology, sister-in-law. His topic shifted so quickly that I instinctively asked, why? On the third day of Larry kneeling, his wounds got infected, and he developed a high fever. Ethan scratched his neck awkwardly. He was semi-conscious when they carried him out, but he insisted I go water his flowers. He chuckled. But I thought it wouldn't look good for a grown man like me to go to your love nest, so I gave the address to his secretary instead. I never thought that incident WowID happened. I apologize, he added with a serious look, but Larry's love for you is undeniable. You talk too much. Get out and deal with the things outside. Larry finally lost his temper, throwing the pillow from the bed at Ethan's head. The movement tugged at his wound, and Larry grunted in pain. Who told you to move? Larry leaned against the headboard, putting on a weak act. It hurts. Believing him, I was about to call the doctor, but my wrist was circled by Larry's hand. Kiss me, and it won't hurt anymore. I sat back down, helplessly entwining my fingers with Larry's. I'm not a painkiller. If you don't kiss me, how will you know if it works? I leaned down, my lips brushing against Larry's fingertips. His thumb lightly grazed my lower lip, a slight tingling sensation spreading across my mouth. I cleared my throat, trying to cover my blush. The flowers Ethan mentioned, were they my roses? Larry let me play with his fingertips, a faint smile curving his lips. You know the answer. Aren't yours the only flowers in the house? I licked my dry lower lip and continued. I brought the flowers back with me that day I left. But for some reason, I'm not as good at caring for them as you are. It seems this great task of growing flowers can only be entrusted to me. Larry's gaze lowered, his eyes on me so gentle they almost melted. I just wonder if you have a place to take me in. I met Larry's gaze. What identity would you move in as? Your future husband. I froze, and something was pushed onto my ring finger. I mustered the courage to look. The ring sparkled in the light. When did you? That night, I thought you were asleep, and I secretly measured. He smiled. Looks like it was accurate. Larry took a deep breath, his voice gentle and certain. Do you accept this identity? I do. Larry leaned in. His second kiss landed on the corner of my lips. Damian Reed's arrest happened faster than I expected. Extortion, intentional assault, and the domestic violence charges I added from years ago. With all the witnesses and evidence, plus Larry's refusal to settle, Damian was facing a lifetime in prison. The shadow I thought would haunt me forever had finally dissipated. Today's a good day. How about we celebrate with hot pot? I suggested, linking my arm through Larry's. Larry's eyes curved into narrow crescents. He always indulged my requests. Sounds great. And that dessert shop's great mousse cake. We can pick one up on the way. Anything else? Can't think of anything right now. We'll decide on the way. I held Larry's warm hand, and the chill of late autumn was completely driven away. The chronic illness that had plagued my body for years was dug out, replaced with a profound, yet light and airy, love. The end.